Supreme Rice. Since the 1930s, supporting Louisiana farmers and communities throughout Louisiana. To find out more, go to supremerice.com. Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? 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 Is it live?
Well, sorry about the technical issues that we're having, but be patient with us on this Monday. Charlie takes the day off, and it just kind of, it's Hanny, we just cannot do it without him. So anyway, but he does have the day off today. And again, talking about Shuck in the Saints, Shuck now 3-3 as a starter, and again, his highest yards per attempt. Both of those games were against Carolina. First game against Carolina and Charlotte, 10.4 yards an attempt. Anything in the double digits is excellent. And this was 8.5 yards an attempt.
Louisiana, you've got a new home for coverage of LSU, the New Orleans Saints, and the Southeastern Conference. Louisiana
282. So, Max, again, the Saints now have won a couple in a row. They have won 3 of their last 5. They've covered 4 of their last 5. Jackson Dart, his team he's got more wins than Jackson Dart right now. And everybody was sort of quick to anoint Jackson Dart as maybe the top quarterback of this draft class. And, well, maybe, when the quarterback, when the team wins, they get a little bit too much credit. Maybe it's a little bit too much blame. But you cannot deny that the way this win went down with 2 fourth-quarter scoring drives, both extended drives for the touchdown to tie it up at 17 apiece and then to set up the game-winning field goal attempt to win it at 20-17. The defense, too, Max, is the last 5 games giving up 271 yards per game. Number 1 in the league in total yardage per game is the Houston Texans, which everybody realizes at this point kind of had their coming-out defensive party against that high-powered Buffalo Bills, the way they just dominated them up front, and Josh Allen was running for his life. The Texans are only 2 yards better than the Saints have been for this 5-game stretch. One of the things we like to look at, first-year staff, how is a team improving over the course of the season? The Saints were a seller, as they should have been. They're really not a whole lot at stake this year, minus some pride and draft positioning. But also the quarterback seems to be getting, this is 2 positive steps in a row. Not perfect by any stretch. Not any stretch. But as far as him sort of clearing up the picture a little bit, we still have 3 more data points in the spirit of the selection committee. We have 3 more games, but he's now got a cushion to be the Saints' future quarterback, and they will use those draft picks, those early draft picks elsewhere.
Yeah, we knocked the Saints in this organization and Mickey Loomis quite a bit. We have this year quite a bit, but I think they've handled this quarterback situation pretty well. He had a rough camp, and he wasn't ready for the start of week 1. They could have forced him in just to see what they had, the second-round pick, but they let him develop, sit behind Rattler, who was competent running the offense, but ultimately didn't kind of stretch the field enough and make those big enough plays to keep him around. So now you have Tyler Shuck. He's now 3-3 on a pretty bad team, so that's a great start for his first 6 games. And what's impressive to me is specifically in these 3rd and long situations, he's been very effective. 3rd and 6 are long in the last 3 games, 13 of 18, 140 passing yards and a touchdown. That's 113 pass
conversions.
I'll go back and look. I think there were a couple of those that were short of the sticks that were completions, but that would leave still about 10 of 18 that are past the sticks. And some of those are 3rd and 6, so those are manageable 3rd downs. But there were a couple longer plays, and those 3rd and longs. your completion percentage is going to be down a little bit because you have to stretch the field more. You can't take those checkdowns, and he's doing pretty well to be over 70% in those situations. So he's making plays for you, and that's the difference. He's done a little bit with his feet. He needs to take less hits. That's certainly going to be a problem for him if he keeps taking these hits, and he was hobbling around by the fourth quarter. But it's been a great start, and certainly enough to let's see what this looks like next year and not have to worry about drafting a quarterback.
I can't say, Dart, again, maybe going to concussion protocol again yesterday.
He did at one point. He came back in the game, but he was evaluated.
They'll learn, and, Shuck's got it. He's got a history of injuries. And, are they, their performance, look, it's not like he's not playing through a little pain or whatever, but if he's going to get hit, and look, Bryce Young was running a lot yesterday. That's way more than what we're used to, and we know about his limitations. He's so small. He's going to be fragile as well. But I tell you what, where did the Saints' defensive improvement come from?
I think you got to give credit to Brandon Staley. This is a different team, and they had to change their formation, right? They go to more of a 3-4, and they're defending a lot differently than they were, and so maybe that's what's taking some time. With the personnel changes they've made, they brought in Godshaw, go to a three-man defensive front. It's going to be a little bit different, but they have certainly found their niche, and they're not really doing it just off turnovers, right? That's kind of what the Bears' defense is doing. Is feasting on turnovers, but they're still allowing some yards. The Saints are just not allowing yards at all, like you mentioned earlier with that stat. So it's been a significant improvement with a team that roster-wise we don't think is all that great defensively. We don't think their roster is super talented. They've got some aging guys on that team, but they've found a way to do it against, albeit, some weaker competition.
So Kellen Moore, his expertise, he played quarterback. He is an offensive coach. What do you like, and what do you maybe question as far as that's aiding Shuck? What kind of situations is he putting him in that is allowing him to have a little success?
Well, I heard a stat coming into this week that this season the Saints have an open receiver rate, which I don't know how that's measured, to be honest, Jimmy. There's somebody who's probably charting that, or are you within a yard of the receiver? But their receivers, Olave, and they traded Shaheed away, but they're 6th in open receiver rate. So they're finding ways to get guys open, which is great for a rookie quarterback. He made a couple contested throws. The one to Olave was in a tight window with Horn, J.C. Horn guarding him. That was to tie the game. So he's able to make those big plays, but keep things a little bit simple and get guys open. And so credit to the receivers, the pass catchers for doing that. But obviously there's certainly some offensive scheming there. And I wasn't all that sold on Kellen Moore early on. He spent a lot of time saving, being efficient in summer camp. He was a little bit lighter on them. And we saw early in the season, right, they had a big penalty problem. So many penalties for the first 5 games. So they've solved that a little bit. And it just seems like maybe the idea of keeping them healthy or whatnot, it is sort of, being fruitful down the stretch here.
6 more catches yesterday for Olave for 85 yards. Definitely seems to be a little chemistry between the two, and a touchdown. So his 2 games against Carolina, 11 catches, 189 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. So, we're talking about who would you rather them ship off, whether it's, Rashid or Olave. And maybe as far as Shuck is concerned, I wouldn't have thought that Shaheed would have had this much production on the receiving end as Olave is.
And Olave was cold for a while, right? He had 3 catches for quite a bit, and Robert Griffin III was on the call and was basically like, they need to get Olave the ball more. That Olave's not getting there. As soon as he mentioned that, they get him the ball, and Olave drops it on key third down, but he found him down the stretch the last 5 minutes.
All right, so they moved down in the draft position now. Is this, if you went to the Dome yesterday, and we were down doing a show in New Orleans yesterday, they were excited. Saints fans are excited. They want to win. They want to win. They want to level up. It was an entertaining game. A fourth quarter comeback to the 2 last drives to tie and win the game. Yeah, you did it in some dramatic fashion, but it's costing them some draft positioning. Are we really is this what we want?
I think it's okay because you're in a first-year coach. You got to build the culture a little bit. You want the locker room to trust you. And in this stretch to gain momentum, especially with a first-year quarterback, I do think it's helpful. I understand the draft pick situation, but you're probably not drafting a quarterback. I hope not at this point. So it's not like you need a first pick for Mendoza. You'll still get a great selection at some point. But, I much prefer to win these games, actually.
Chad Reynolds in Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings, 296-0060, a full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge. Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. Three best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
Troy, how you doing, buddy?
Trying to stay warm. It's rather cold here up in the mid-Atlantic. The temps got down to 15 degrees this weekend. Had some snow that hasn't melted because it's so cold.
Yeah, it's chilly for us down here as well. There's no doubt. So we're in a ramen place, man. We're at the right spot today for the Monday edition. Troy, some of the barometers I was looking at yesterday told me that the two most public plays were Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. So the people still not a whole lot of respect for the Saints. In Seattle, they just thought that Rivers was going to go in there, and, well, he left a little bit better than we thought. I would have really congested the line of scrimmage and made him throw the ball deep, but, hey, they were lucky to win outright. So I guess a lot of people just threw in Seattle maybe in these money line parlays that dodged a bullet yesterday. And I got to believe that Kansas City, in sort of this must-win spot, they probably got a lot of attention money line as well yesterday.
So no, on the latter,
okay.
Kansas City Chargers game didn't rate all that highly. I think people, the Chargers don't really play an aesthetically pleasing style of football. They've kind of been all over the map. They've certainly gotten better. And the Chiefs, I think, they're obviously a public team. They have been. We don't need to go into that. But instead of immediately fading them, which a lot of people do, they go from backing public teams to just hammering them on the other side. People have just punted on the Chiefs. They just don't want a part of it. That's not to say no one's betting on it, but no one is betting on it nearly to the magnitude that we saw, early half of the season last year and going back, the last couple of years. The Seahawks is interesting because when we spoke on Friday, they were top 3 in strength of spread play, and looking at the post-game results, they're not in the top 5, they're not in the top 7, and I think that's because, the amount of live betting we took, and people, I myself found a way to back Phillip Rivers, not large, but, why not? This is a fun story. I had him to throw an interception and to throw a touchdown, got bailed out on the last play of the game with that interception. So we saw a lot of live betting on the Colts. And the Panthers, yes. That was our 4th strongest spread play by tickets and the only one in the top 5 of spread play by tickets to lose. It was a very good weekend for bettors, especially if you had heavy favorites on moneyline parlays, Jaguars, Texans, Eagles, 49ers, Bears, the Seahawks. Those were all winners. So you could get, if you had a 6-leg parlay, you'd probably be catching 3-1 would have hit.
There you go. Another public play was the Dallas Cowboys last night lose outright. How was that played at Bet Rivers?
Yeah, that was the most wagered on play of the weekend. 4.4% of the total handle. Also, 3.2% of the handle was of the total Week 15 Sunday handle was on Cowboys to win. Now, granted, we did take 3.7% of the handle on Vikings to cover. And even after, I don't think a lot of people put stock in the Vikings win last week against the Commanders team. That was just an awful play. And the Cowboys have been playing much better, but the Vikings look like the Vikings of week 2 or 3, I think, when McCarthy had that really good comeback. Still need to get Justin Jefferson a little bit more involved, but that was a pretty surprising result. And here's another one, the Bills. That comeback was crazy. You could get the Bills at 10-1 in game. We had someone bet $1,000 on the Bills live money line at 10-1 to win $10K. Early on in that game, I was like, this is a Bills road game. The Patriots are very good. I see the Patriots winning this. I think the Bills will make it a game. But I didn't like the line at Bills favorite -2.5 on the road at the Patriots. I don't know if you could sort of put the Patriots as a favorite against the Bills, even though it was at home. The Bills' money line was our second most wagered on play. It was the biggest payout of the whole weekend. I think it would have been a lot worse of a weekend for the sport or for the bettors if the Bills hadn't pulled that off. 4% of the money of total money was on Bills money line. 3% of total money was on Bills to cover, and there were Josh Allen, James Cook props that hit, of course, there that really helped out.
Yeah, speaking of the Cowboys, huh, Max? I mean, the most automatic thing you got, Aubrey misses twice last night.
Both over 50 yards, but still, yeah, you expect those to go every single time.
But when you miss over 50 yards, you're giving up good quality field position. So that was he still hit 4. What's that?
Don't have my man running. He needs to keep his legs fresh for kicking long bombs.
I know, and but McCarthy showing some signs that maybe. I mean, he missed a whole year. He wasn't really showcased as a passer in the national championship season at Michigan. We all talk about the Penn State second half where they didn't throw one time, but he's young quarterbacks, first year starter, some inconsistencies, but a step in the right direction as far as McCarthy and his development.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having a guy in Jalen Naylor, Speedy Naylor, is really helpful because he can create separation and you can throw to a spot and he'll get there. He still has to figure out how to really get on the same page with Justin Jefferson. And, I think that's the most important thing. He's one of the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL. But it was a step in the right direction. I loved the naked bootleg at the goal line, and he gritted his way into the end zone. That was a huge confidence booster for a young quarterback. To have the faith to, when you have a good run game and a great, set of skill position players, and J.J. McCarthy has never been known as a running quarterback, so to have the confidence to do that against a Cowboys front seven that's been a little bit better. I don't think that's their weakness on defense. I think it's their secondary. So I was impressed with the Vikings. And this is what they need at the end of the season, of a lost season, to have, confidence and a place to build next year because they can't do this next year. They have too many weapons. You need to appease Justin Jefferson, even though he's a level-headed guy. You need to do what they did last year, and I think this is getting them there with McCarthy finally getting some reps and getting some consistency.
All right, what about tonight? Where's the action for tonight's game? Miami and Pittsburgh. I would have to think it's on the Steelers because the obvious, Tua, the Dolphins in the cold. It is cold. Pittsburgh coming off a win last week, a road win at Baltimore. Yeah,
it's all on Steelers. 83% of the money and 79% of the tickets to win outright. That's at minus 180 right now. 62% of the money and 67% of the tickets on the Steelers to cover at minus 3. The split, or it's actually two-way money, 76% of the money is on the under, 67% of the tickets on the over. I think you go under here. The Steelers haven't been super prolific, and like you mentioned, I think the Dolphins have been playing much better, but it's cold weather. And you all should go back and watch a YouTube clip of the Dolphins versus the Steelers in 2007 on Monday night. There were 3 football games played at the Steelers Stadium that weekend. The final one was Monday Night Football. It was an absolute mud bowl. The final score was 3-0. It's the funniest football game you'll ever watch. It was the worst football game I've ever seen. Balls were getting stuck in the mud on punts. And so anytime I see these two teams play on Monday night, I just think back to that game that I watched every snap of the ball in college, and it was dreadful. So on principle, I'm taking the under here.
All right, the under hit in Army-Navy. The favorite wins easily in the first bowl game of the season, Washington over Boise. But we had some interesting non-conference games across the country in college basketball. Arizona goes to Birmingham and beats Bama by 21. Kentucky with their best win of the season. They cover as well. Arkansas and Texas Tech. Texas Tech scored 49 the first half, but Arkansas comes back and shoots over 50% from 3 to win. Now, Nebraska is undefeated with a win at Champaign. NC State just missed at home. Kansas with a big win by 1 over overtime on campus in Raleigh against Will Wade's NC State Wolfpack. What stood out to you?
The Kansas win. Darren Peterson getting injured again. I mean, he's a difference maker, and he goes out, and you're just thinking, oh, gosh, this is Kansas is screwed. And Melvin Council Jr. put the team on his back. One of the best performances of the year up there with Koa Pete in the opener for Arizona. Kansas needed this win so badly. They're back in the rankings. They dropped 3 of their first 11 or first 10 games. That's very un-Kansas-like. NC State is a good team, certainly not great. Will Wade is on his way there. But they needed this win so bad on the road, and to get a performance like that shows that you have guys who can step up. And then I also think Arkansas. I'm kind of a little bit out on John Calipari early in the season against big-time teams. They lost to Michigan State. They lost to Duke. Certainly that's, no knock there. But, I didn't have them beating Louisville, even though it was at home. I think the world of Louisville, and they were pretty emphatic in that second half. And Texas Tech is a really good team with J.P. Toppin. Just very impressed with Arkansas thus far. I think they're in that second tier. I don't think they're one of the truly elite teams of the Michigan State, Duke, Louisville, Arizona's, but I think they're in that next cut. And I think this is a game that they proved they might be a little bit better than Texas Tech, although that's at home, and Bud Walton is a very hard place to play.
All right, Troy. Follow Troy on Twitter or X at Troy Macker. That's Machir. Good luck to you tonight, Troy. We'll talk to you Friday.
Thanks, guys.
All right, don't forget it's ramen weather over here at Finbom. A star of the show, the soy broth, the pork, green onions, corn, fried onion, garlic, chili oil, seasoned egg with egg noodles. You can have it at any different of mild, medium, or spicy.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number one, and we yesterday on Football Sunday originated from Caesars downtown in New Orleans. We led off the show with LSU basketball. That's right, their biggest win of the year, their first Quad 1 win. They're just their second Quad 1 game, Quad 1 or Quad 2. They had built an 8-0 record, but they acted like they were stepping up in class and weren't ready against Texas Tech, and they were blistering from the floor. Both from the floor in general and also from three on Saturday against SMU, and won handily by 12, 89-77. We'll talk about LSU in depth, but I think maybe what's a better win, Max, Arizona at Alabama or Nebraska at Illinois? You looked up both of the teams, Alabama and Illinois. I think that we knew Arizona was good. Nebraska's still trying to prove themselves, so maybe they were equal. But I think maybe a little bit more important to Nebraska and Freddie Hoiberg's crew, who got to the tournament last year.
Yeah, was that a home game for them? That was
at Illinois.
Okay,
at Champaign.
Bama was technically a neutral site. It was a home game. It was not a Coleman Coliseum, but it was a home game for Alabama. So, yeah, I'm just kind of curious what Alabama is at this point. They played a ton of great games. So their strength of schedule has been very tough, so it's kind of hard to judge just how good they are at this point.
NC State as well. I thought NC State needed it a little bit more. NC State's probably kind of a bubble team right now for a bid in that 40 NET range. It's early for NET, but LSU, hey, their NET ranking, right? They are in position to try and compete for a bid. Better day for the SEC. Their conference RPI goes to number 3. Probably not going to catch the Big 12 or the Big 10. We'll come back, and after this top of the hour break, we'll come back with hour number 2. We'll start off with LSU basketball. Look back at Saturday night. Max was down there at UNO. Live at lunch, live at Finbom at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
Caesars Sportsbook is the only sportsbook app with Caesars Reward.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chilly in Baton Rouge. 20s last night, 20s expected again tonight, and that means it's ramen season. Yes, indeed. Our signature ramen bowls over here at Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen. You can make it a combo with sides and a drink as well, but the star of the show, ramen, the soy broth, the pork, green onions, corn, fried onions, garlic, chili oil, seasoned egg with egg noodles, the chicken ramen, Python chicken, that's a white broth, the chicken, the bean sprouts, green onion, seasoned egg, sweet corn, butter, red ginger, and egg noodles, garlic, lime, shrimp ramen, the Python white broth, the jumbo shrimp, sesame garlic oil, red ginger, bok choy, lime, green onion, cilantro, sweet corn, seasoned egg, sriracha chili sauce, and egg noodle, and the ooh la la. Our last ramen over here is the cashew pork loin, Saboro ground pork, woodware mushrooms, bean sprouts, green onion, sweet corn, seasoned egg, chili oil, takatsu, and the white broth. It is ramen day, huh, Max?
Yeah, star of the show.
Which one you knocking down?
Star of the show is my go-to. I eat it all the time. I don't know if it's named after you or Charlie, but
Charlie.
Okay.
Yes.
Not even here, but
Charlie will pull up at 12:55 and get him a star of the show. So Charlie has the day off. We apologize for our technical issues earlier on in the show. We continue though with Max. This was interesting because we projected this line, and I thought neutral, semi-neutral. It's not going to be a raucous, intimidating atmosphere at the Lakefront Arena, but
this is in the Smoothie King.
I'm sorry, Smoothie King, and but it's in Louisiana. I would have to give, I'd say SMU 3.5. I was wrong. It was right around even. LSU went off as the favorite, and kind of a routine win. Now, it wasn't a routine box score when you shoot 62%, 7 of 15 from 3. But the biggest thing I have, we got the same coach, and I understand, the better coaches will massage their style for their roster. But this is such a different approach, especially offensively, where they were playing like it was a 10-second shot clock, and any shot they can get off as early as they could beyond the arc, and they weren't a great three-point shooting team. That's what they were doing. I was like, wait, why are we trying to increase the amount of possessions when we're the inferior roster? So I always question. So this year, we talk about the threes, and McKinnon was on fire, and he can get hot. He has been hot for 3 or 4 games, and he has not for some others. But 43 of the 58 attempts are inside the arc. They are pounding the ball. Their pace of play is down from what it's been the previous seasons under McMahon. And this is with losing one of your back-to-the-basket players in Reed that you thought might cut it down a little bit. But the stylistic, it lends itself to, I think it's a higher IQ basketball. I think it's a more efficient approach. I think it's more balanced. And I think that shot selection, you're prioritizing shot selection when you're looking to work for a higher quality shot instead of settle for the first jumper you can get off.
Look, this starts with having a true point guard, which McMahon has not had. You run your offense through Thomas. He's a top 75, 80 player in the country. Like, they hit on him, and that was their big get, and they had to hit on him, and he has been really good distributing the ball. He had a bad game against Texas Tech, as pretty much everyone did for LSU, but he has been a great distributor, unselfish oftentimes, gets the ball to Nwoku, sets it up from time to time. LSU currently 14th in the country in two-point percentage. They're 61%, so that's where their bread is buttered, and so they're limiting the shots outside. That's maybe the one hole this roster has is outside shooting. It's pretty much McKinnon whenever he's hot, and he was hot in this game, 6 of 7 from beyond the arc. But maybe lacked a little bit of that. I thought we'd see a little bit more P.J. Carter. He's more of an outside. We saw Ron Zipper play instead of him, so that was a weird rotation. They struggled kind of in that moment in the first half, but overall, they are an inside shooting team, and Thomas has facilitated a lot more good possessions than we've seen traditionally for a McMahon offense, and that's where this starts. But Markelle Sutton, he has I love his game. He has the most quiet, games I've ever seen. You look up and he's been impactful in the game, but then he has a 23-point double-double. They had 3 players in this game with double-doubles, and this was a great test for LSU because SMU, this was their 4th consecutive game against an SEC opponent away from home. They won 2 of them in overtime. They beat A&M and Mississippi State. You play A&M twice.
Where did they play those games?
Once. They were neutral site. One of them was in one of them was in Texas. So playing A&M in Texas, that was kind of a neutral site.
But not on campus.
No, none of them are on campus. So that's the big thing there. They lost by 19 to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a good team, but that was away from home.
The highest NET of any SEC team right now.
But to take a team that coming in was 2-1 against SEC opponents, and none of those were home games. This is kind of I would say a median test for conference play, and they beat them pretty much from start to finish. I mean, they were pretty comfortable of kind of keeping them at arm's length throughout the second half. And so, this is a big test, and I think they passed. And, I'm kind of already starting to forecast what this team will do in conference play. Maybe we can blue book it at some point when Charlie gets back. But this was something where it's like, okay, maybe this is a tournament-level team, and we can start thinking of them that way.
They did play Mississippi State and Vanderbilt on campus in Starkville at the Hump, and then also Memorial Coliseum in Nashville. They played Texas A&M in Jerry World. So they and they went 2-1 in there. Where does a couple of things because they are trying to attack, and it's Saturday from inside the arc. There were 29 of 43. 29 of 43 from twos. That's 67%. I don't know. I mean, this is a top 40 NET team right now. I think they will probably finish somewhere around 30 to 40. Andy Enfield has brought multiple schools to the NCAA tournament, and he's got some player budget over at SMU. One of his key players is a kid they got from St. Aug, transferred in from Jacksonville State. But this is just it's an outlier with the McKinney, but D-Dan Thomas is, Texas Tech. Was it that big of an upgrade? Were they that out of sorts? Was Texas Tech, they started hitting a few shots early, and maybe they got behind big and lost them. But he had 1 assist and 3 turnovers, and that's just not the same. His career at UNLV first year was 2.3 to 1, slightly up. His second year, 2.4 assists to 1 turnover. This year it's 4 plus 1, so it is improved. Now, but this one against much higher quality competition. So 1 assist and 3 turnovers against Texas Tech, 12 assists and 2. He did have 15 shots. I would like his that I could deal with that. 80% of his field goal attempts, he's going to get assists. I'll take that anytime. I'll take 9. I'll take that anytime, but he's not going to have 12 assists a game. That's a high number. So.
Right. That's a season high for LSU. And this is a similar test to last year. Remember we talked about how the conference schedule or the non-con schedule was kind of weak for LSU. They were 8-1. They played in the same tournament. It was in Frisco, so it's kind of a home and home, but it's neutral site. So SMU was a similar team. They ended up making the NIT because they really struggled down the stretch, and then they were probably going to be a tournament team until they closed the season poorly. But last year, LSU 8-1, goes to Frisco, loses to SMU by 10. This year, the same team, they win by 12 in New Orleans. So they're paying off their non-con schedule. They're better. Just much better. And this is a team that you have to start taking seriously as at least a tournament team. That's where the expectations need to be reset.
When they get into conference play, now they have Southeastern on Friday night, next Monday, Prairie View, and then the following Monday after Christmas, Southern Miss. They will start conference play in College Station where they take on Texas A&M. So, and just the conference is not as forgiving. It's probably it is now number 3. It was as low as 5, but a good weekend for the SEC. Everybody minus Alabama won their non-conference games this past week and this past weekend. So, including Oklahoma, gave Oklahoma State their first loss of the season. Nebraska continued to stay undefeated at Illinois. They will probably jump up, but they did not look anything close to a tournament team against Boston College and also Texas Tech. They looked like a tournament team on Saturday. What direction are they going to go?
Like I said, I just think that this SMU team was just the perfect opponent because they had played those SEC teams. That's, to me, it's the fairest test because you can put them up against SEC opponents because they've done it 3 times and they were 2-1. I know they won twice in overtime, but these are the type of teams you're going to be playing, into 2026. And, I would say that if SMU is sort of an average SEC team level, then, beating them by 12 in a neutral venue tells you that this team can go 10-8 in conference play. And that would be good enough to get them in the tournament when they're only going to have 1 non-con loss.
How many do you think the conference is going to get?
Lenardi's last update last year was
he does
them like once a week. He had 8, I believe, in his last one. But LSU was first 4 out, so they were right there. There was another team that was kind of in that bubble that was just on the outside looking in. So it looks like 8 to 10 teams. They won't get the 14 they got last year.
No, that's not happening. There's no doubt about that. So they had a historically high. It's unbelievable. It's a year to year. It's no program or anything like that. I think Kentucky's been a real disappointment. Their best win was either Nicholls State or Tennessee Tech before Saturday. They win by double digits at home against Indiana. So we'll talk about that. But It's Lenardi. That's his last one out was last week, so we'll have to do. We'll have to see. He'll probably come up with it tomorrow, but LSU will probably be in. It's the best win. It's not even close. I mean, this is not. It's a quad one win. They hadn't even played. Any. There's two quad. The game at Boston College. Boston College is predicted to finish 18th out of an 8-team ACC, and if you watch the game, that was not exactly blown away. That was a bad game for LSU. They escaped, and they escaped a bad loss because they lose to Boston College there, then that would have. I'll be honest. That's the difference in them being in or out. I think. Right. I think Lenardi is going to have them in when he comes out with his bracketology tomorrow. You're in the low 30s in the NAT. That's safely in. You've got a little cushion. Mid-40s is where kind of usually the cutoff, kind of the barometer to kind of go back and forth. They're not in. They're probably late high 40s or low 50s if they lose that game to Boston College.
But results matter. And just think about the ACC-SEC challenge. That flipped it in favor of the SEC. They won 8-6, I think it was, or 9-7, whatever outcome it was. They flipped that game. They tie with the ACC, and that's what carried the SEC so much last year. That's why they got 14 teams in, is because they absolutely dominated the SEC-ACC challenge. Right. Put them ahead.
14-2 last year.
Those non-conference games. Once you get to conference play, you can't change your conference RPI. You're just playing each other. So, situations like that where you have head-to-heads against a whole conference, and you prove yourself just by flipping that game where you were down 4 or 5 points in the final minute, and you end up winning that game. That makes a big difference, not just for LSU, but for the SEC.
Well, LSU plays their non-conference. It's the 3 games coming up, and that's it. It is SEC with the SEC opener to the end of throughout the SEC season. So no more non-conference games. The conference RPI will be set, and it depends on. I would even go. They might get as few as 7 teams into the field, and I would say as many as 10. LSU is one of those teams that's kind of in that gray area. So, and is Vanderbilt. So if we could reset and predict the season, has Vanderbilt shown us enough in non-conference to take them seriously as a possible contender for the regular season crown?
Right now, they're the best team in the conference. I would say that pretty emphatically. Mark Byington's done an incredible job. I mean, second year, it just goes to show you can turn things around. They returned 1 player last year to his roster, and it's a year-to-year thing. You're building a whole new roster every year, and he's done a great job there. I know it's a private school, and they care a little bit about basketball, but this team is competitive. They're as good offensively as any team in the country.
Best win at VCU and at St. Mary's, SMU as well. The team that LSU beat, they beat them by 19. They won. They won at St. Mary's. Let me see if that was in the Bay Area on campus. No, that was down in the Bahamas. Okay, that was in the Bahamas. I think VCU was down in the Bahamas as well. It was. So they won 2 neutral sites. Their best ones away from home were VCU and St. Mary's, and it's just not that those are any world beaters, but they're quality opponents. So that jury's still out. I mean, I don't know if they have a win over a tournament-bound team for sure.
Yeah, Vanderbilt 178 in terms of strength of schedule. They're 10-0. LSU 211, and they're 9-1. So they're slightly better strength of schedule, and obviously they've run the table so far.
I'll tell you, Tennessee, I think, is going to get settled in. I'm a little surprised at Ole Miss's start. That's a little. I thought the point guard from France would really open it up. They got their big guy back from a team that should have been in the region, in the Elite 8 last year. Florida's loaded. Don't overreact to Florida's win-loss record. Their schedule has been loaded, and I think they just trying to identify some things. But Arkansas is dangerous, and they showed that. I mean, Texas Tech didn't miss the first half. They had 49 points and to still come back and win that game. Both teams shot unbelievable from the field. They've got length. They've got shooters. And Calipari, that's a comeback win in Dallas over the weekend.
How about Mike White in Georgia? They move the ball. They are fast. They play offensively. Actually, number 1 team in the country in 2-point percentage. So they feast inside, but they play fast, and they've got some going there in Mike White's 4th season.
They are they undefeated right now?
They have 1 loss. I'm trying to remember who that was against. They lost to Clemson. They lost in overtime, 97-94.
Well, with this weather conditions right now, you're not really thinking about your air condition, but make a note right now is the time where it's the best to take advantage of overstocked AC systems over at at Total Maintenance that we've got to make room for. You can save up to $5,500 off select systems at Total Maintenance, as well as steep discounts on the ductwork you have to put if you've been putting off replacing that unit that's 30 years old. Free evaluation of your system to find out exact recommendations and options for you. But if your unit is over 10 years old, if it was serviced over the summer, now's the time to at least let us come out and do an evaluation of your system and tell you what you have, because if you're going to have to replace it pretty soon, now's the time to save the most on that. Spend your money on other stuff besides an air conditioning unit that you're going to need. Again, 480-1000, 480-1000. Total Maintenance, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Well, looking at the NFL, the rest of the NFL outside the Saints game yesterday, started with the noon games. And the first thing we were watching as we were watching all the games, 7 games at noon and 5 at 3 o'clock. No 305s, all 325s. The best balance in the noon 325 schedule that we've had this year. And when you put on the games in Cincinnati, New England, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, it was cold. And a lot of people said, well, the cold really doesn't affect, the scoring, the passing game. It's more of the wind. It was pretty obvious early on a lot of these games that the cold was going to be, it was going to take a little getting used to. There's no doubt about that. Even with the offensive explosion kind of late in the first half with Washington and the Giants, yards were a little tougher. So anyway, but the big one is Burrow, and they were. I kept saying, man, look at them. They are running the ball a lot. So when it was 0-0, no score, fairly early, and they're getting productive running plays, and it was just they were hesitant to throw the ball more with Burrow. And then when he did, Chase drops a third down pass that turns into an interception. He turned one, he missed one that was kind of, just kind of not a little bit off, and then Burrow is just like, and he's having a tough time. Next thing you know, they missed a couple of early scoring opportunities, and Baltimore takes a lead, and then they're driving again to try and get back in the game, make it 17-7 at least, and it's like an 85, 90-yard pick, handoff, score, and it was done at that point. To the point where Max was saying how they shifted some coverage late, and they had conceded. They were just handing the ball off, weren't hurrying up, weren't going tempo. They were just ready to go on. So kind of that throwing in the white towel, I don't react to sound bites much, but how can you just totally ignore what Burrow had to say the week before? It's not fun. We said, is this an interpretation where, well, one, it's a tough loss. I mean, he played so great at Buffalo, -2 plays, and I mean, they were back-to-back, and they were game-deciding plays. But to be so ineffective, now, the cold was a factor. He didn't have Higgins there, but he still had Chase. Chase, when does he drop balls? Never. But he did. Protection's an issue. It was a little revenge spot where they kind of just went through Baltimore easily. And some of these division games have a way of snapping back the other way. We've seen that before because Jackson he didn't light it up yesterday. It was just ugly. And there's only been one uglier statistical performance by Joe Burrow since he's been with the Bengals. That was a couple of years ago in the season opener against the Browns where they had their number. He couldn't even set up as Myles Garrett was living in the backfield that day. He only passed for just over 80 yards, and that one is worst statistical performance since then. Is it too much to read into this kind of these comments and in this game?
I don't think at all. I mean, I think it was a really, really rough day if you're a Bengals fan yesterday. Burrow clarified that the fun comments, talking about not having fun, that wasn't aimed at Cincinnati. But look at a lot of things that were said. Even in this game, the sideline reporter, I was listening to this game late, Aditi, I believe it was on the sideline and basically said that Joe Burrow said he doesn't want to be GM. He provides input.
Well, he
but
was.
Exactly, right? So he's been involved, and so maybe he's like, look, do I really want my coach here anymore? Has this thing worked out? And, he talks about maybe not having so much fun, and maybe some of that's just life stuff. But the Bengals yesterday didn't remove snow from their seats. I mean, it just goes into the cheap owner thing that violates league policy, right? So that was what Mike Florio was reporting. They might get in trouble for that. So they couldn't even bother to remove the snow from their seats. The Bills hire fans to do it all the time, and the Bengals just when you get to your seat, don't bother. Just clean it off yourself. So just overall, just weak stuff from Cincinnati.
You think it's so insignificant, but it just gives you an idea of how they operate.
Right. It's a minimal thing, but the timing of that, just like of all things, with things crumbling, Burrow, and you can't even bother to clean up the seats. So you're a fan, you show up to watch a losing team, and you don't even have a seat cleared for you.
That's the deal, man. You should be going above and beyond. You win it. Yeah, everybody's going to come in and don't have a problem, brushing off there. When you're struggling and this team is not going to the postseason, and that was, that's official now after yesterday's outcome. But, damn it, they coming out in the snow with a team that's, that has a 4-9 record? You better clearly get some help in there and look, clean the seats.
Adam Schefter said, I think it was on the McAfee show, he said a lot of people were calling him, around the league. Their antenna were raised by those comments, How many teams would not want Joe Burrow at this point? Of course, there's going to be interest there. If the Bengals can make something out of this, if they sense that an end might be near at some point down the road, there are a lot of teams that would be interested in Joe Burrow.
How can they trade Joe Burrow? I mean, but you want to have any problems? Fans complain about the snow in their seats if they trade Joe Burrow. Think about it. I mean, does he demand a trade? He's kind of not like that. We talked about this. This organization has such a poor track record. We know the inside stories, behind the scenes stories about how competitive, how committed, how much of a leader, how special he is. We can watch him perform and see that with our own eyes and without not knowing any backstories. But who was going to win out? And it looked like when the second year he's getting to the Super Bowl, it's downhill from there. It might be a Dan Marino thing where he never gets back.
Yeah,
I mean we it looked like a first of several trips to the big game, and gosh, even in the biggest game of his career in that Super Bowl, he finishes the game with a strained ligament.
And let's look at what was around him. They were winning because of Joe Burrow. And in spite of some of the other things that organization has had. Zach Taylor, we know he's a weak coach. It's probably the end for him. But the Zach Taylor coaching tree, I mean, Brian Callahan got a job with the Titans just by being his OC. And we saw how inept Brian Callahan was. They fired him mid-season this year. So, I mean, Joe Burrow has been carrying a lot of that, and Jamar Chase, of course, and that offense in general. But they've made some questionable decisions, and maybe Burrow's been part of that in terms of the management of their roster, but yeah, it's uncomfortable there, I would say.
They've made some, they go with Chase over Penei Sewell to start off with, puts himself in a hole as far as his protection, which they did not protect him at all. It was you watch the games, it was just a matter of time in his rookie season before he was going to break down with some sort of injury. Nobody could have predicted a triple ligament repair or damage, but which adds on to the pain, the recovery time, and everything from a basic torn ACL, a single ligament, and so then they pick up this kind of B-level, offensive lineman in this pick and here, and it's just kind of been patching it up instead of just replacing it.
Re-signed T. Higgins, a second receiver, you're paying him a lot. Trey Hendrickson, you had the drama with his contract in the offseason. He's still not a long-term solution there. He's missed a lot of time this year, so it's not good if you're a Cincinnati fan.
The biggest game of the day yesterday was the more interesting one is, the Bills came back. They were getting smoked. I mean, absolutely smoked in the game, 21-0. But they came from behind. A live bettor's dream, a middler's dream on this one, and came all the way back and won the doggone thing. And boy, when you could see the momentum shift, it was something at Foxborough against New England. Dude. We've been waiting for one of the veteran participants in the AFC, Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, so to try and make a run. Buffalo's best win of the season, down 21-0.
Yeah, this was this was obviously the game of the 12 o'clock window, but Patriots. I saw Portnoy was already bragging about how they were going to run away with the division, and they were.
It's a Daily Portnoy quote. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Was there some mismanagement of that game from a Patriots perspective? I know we think very highly of Mike Vrabel, but maybe they didn't quite put that game away like they should have early, and then obviously the second half regressed. I don't know if the Patriots defense is great, but obviously Josh Allen is a big part of that.
Well, I think that Mr. Vrabel's just doing just fine. So he's not -$3. He's about even money right now for Coach of the Year. McDonald and Lim Cohn are second choice at plus over 450. But it's going to be hard to beat Vrabel. But it was just kind of a prove-it game as far as, okay, you've taken advantage of the schedule. You did go to Buffalo and win that game, but can you put them away? Can you clinch the division against the team that has dominated for so long? Now, they still control the second tiebreaker now that they split head-to-head, and that is a divisional record. So if they hang on to beat Miami and they don't lose another divisional game, they're going to win, because they got a game lead and they have the tiebreaker as well.
My other takeaways in that early window, Chiefs, obviously they're out of the playoffs. They were going to be out without Mahomes anyway. They were going to lose that game. The Bears, Caleb Williams, look, I know it's the Browns, but they moved the ball well in the cold. 17 of 28, 242 yards. That offense is just different. Ben Johnson, well coached, has made big strides. They might be a real team. I've been throwing them off
coached
for a while. They are very, very well coached.
They're well coached.
And of all the dungeon teams, I figured out which the worst one is, and I bet they're over 6.5 wins this year.
Do you remember the
Big
first
loss.
Monday night of the season, the Bears and the Vikings, and the way they lost that game? And some of the game management could have been a little bit better, but they're booing their team of the opener, and they're one of the stories. They're one of the stories of this year. And Johnson has been, in just with his individual, impact on Caleb Williams. Now, you should get better with more time in the early part of your career, but it's just the whole thing. They're winning these close games. Yes, they were fortunate, kind of in the luck factor. Their turnover margin was, so far and below above everybody else. They had a negative point differential for a while until a couple of games ago. But, man, it's unbelievable, the psyche, how it's so fragile for pro players. But, man, you see these sort of mid-level teams, if they win those 50-50 games early, man, they are a different team. Even in a loss at Green Bay, it was a respectable performance by Chicago. And, yeah, Cleveland should be used to playing in the cold a lot, and they destroyed them. So much for the Shador Sanders getting fit for a yellow jacket just yet. So he had a rough day with no offensive touchdown.
Jimmy, they're bad teams. The Cardinals are bad. The Browns are bad. The Jets are bad. The Raiders. 75 yards in a trailing game state, less than 2 yards per play, the most misleading score of the entire season. They went to New England in week 1 and won by 7, and since then it's been a disaster. Kenny Pickett, maybe it's the small hands in the cold, but the Eagles didn't have to do anything. That game was over in 2.5 hours.
75 yards. They have did they get double-digit first downs? Probably not. They had so many snaps. They only had one game. They had like 30 snaps in the game. And yesterday, just the actual time, 2 hours and 25 minutes, and the game is done. Thanks for shopping. This was unbelievable.
7 first downs and 20 minutes of possession.
Jalen Hurts, some more designed running plays for him to try and get him going. Because of it, they picked their spots when they wanted him to throw the ball because it was under 20 attempts. His efficiency was way up, and his passer rating was the best this week in the NFL.
With Ott and from Finbom, sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, as we were looking at it, the theme this year in the NFL has been these upstart kind of stories that, tremendous records, but some people just wondering how good they are. And the two teams were tied for the number 1 seed going in yesterday. New England started off. They got a big game against the established Bills. And they blew a 21-0 lead. The Denver Broncos, they fell behind yesterday to the Green Bay Packers, and they it was impressive. Typical type of game out of Bo Nix. From play to play, you just don't know what you're getting, man. You don't know if you're getting a ball that's a turnover-worthy play or, hitting a guy in stride for a touchdown, making some plays with his legs as well. But however they got there, this was a case where Denver passed the test and New England did not.
Yeah, Bo Nix, 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns and receptions. I know, there's still some inaccuracies there. That's kind of the Bo Nix issue, but I'm not sure how good the Broncos defense is. They're good, but their opponents and who they've allowed it to, I'm not saying they're bad. They're just maybe a little overrated. I don't know if they're like a top 2 or 3 defense just yet. Seattle's one of those teams. They've got the best defense in the NFL, in my opinion. They faced Phillip Rivers yesterday, but the Broncos, I think I have to view them as a real team. Sean Payton's done a good job there, and Bo Nix has, I would say, improved in terms of effectiveness. There's still some inaccuracies, like you mentioned, but they're able to run an offense a lot better than they were earlier in the season.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you can see the play calling earlier in the season where Nix was really, really struggling, and Payton would just kind of take the game out of his hands. Like, it's okay for us to punt with this defense right now. Defense is kind of, I don't know if it's, they're hitting some plays on them now. They're not quite as suffocating as they were early in the season. They probably were the number 1 defense for the first 8 games or so in the NFL. It's clearly the Houston Texans now. So, Nix has had to do it. His overall box score, man, 4 TDs, no interceptions, and over 300 yards passing, over 8 yards per attempt. It's as good as you can get. I mean, you can't ask for much better. But is he ready to take that step, or is it just we just don't know? He's going to have struggle some games. And he might not. I mean, and we know how even after struggling for like 50 minutes, he comes out of nowhere like against the Eagles, against the Giants, and lights it up. When he goes tempo and goes hurry up when he's in a come-from-behind mode. But this is against one of the more respected defensive units. Parsons does go out. That did hurt them. But Sutton, they couldn't really – he was open all day. And Franklin had some really nice catches for Denver as well. This offense is starting to show a little bit more promise.
Yeah, Bo Nix, it's interesting. I was looking back, keep thinking about that big 2024 quarterback class. And Drake May, I think everyone would have number 1 right now among that class.
Over Daniels?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Daniels had a rough year. He's been hurt, which is one of the concerns we had about him, coming in the league, was would he be able to stay on the field? And we've seen that lack of availability. I guess I was
fighting it for a while, but yeah, you're probably right.
I think what's interesting is
the majority would have to put him in, and that's the most recent sample size we have.
Those are some polarizing guys behind him, though. How high do you have Jaden Daniels? It was the first year an aberration, or was that more of what we'll see next year going forward? Bo Nix, I think some people could have him as high as 2, and I wouldn't agree with that, but they could have him as second to Drake May. You've got J.J. McCarthy, who's still a little bit behind. We need to see more from him. Penix, not so great for him, also been hurt, but I mean, Jaden, Caleb Williams starting to show some love. I mean, you could have that 2 to 4 to 5 range, kind of in whatever order you please.
This is not a game that you get too excited about the result, but one of their biggest, kind of a point of a lot of our debates. Is he any good? Okay, he signed for a lot of money. They're committed to him. He was number 1 overall pick. He's got the measurables, but is he any good? Well, Trevor Lawrence is being sharp the last 2 games, although it's against the Colts and the Jets. And this just ended, but the Colts are sliding. But then the Colts played well yesterday in a tough spot. I thought Seattle was pretty flat too. But, man, this AFC's got a lot of interesting pictures. And Lawrence, man, when he does look sharp, he does look like, he's sort of at Hall of Fame type of potential. it has not been anything close to that type of career so far for him. Who's at fault? Is he just doesn't have a lot of feel and instincts for the game? Although he's got the measurables, is it because it's been a rotating door as far as his coaches and his offensive coaches? Whatever it is. He's been inconsistent this year, but he's put back-to-back. He really looks sharp and just putting games away early the last couple of weeks.
It's the Jets' defense. The Colts' defense kind of, I don't know where I put those two defenses, but I will say
good.
No. But look, we talked about in the first hour, Kellen Moore, first-year play caller. You give him an opportunity to get better as the season goes on. This is a first-year offensive-minded coach, and he's come in and the offense is getting better. Thomas has had some drops early in the year, but I think you got to give them credit for, they brought in a new coach, and, it maybe did take them some time to get in a feel of things. And there were some moments between him and Lawrence Liam Cohen where, you see them shouting at each other, at one point in the game early in the season. But, maybe Cohen's got something going here offensively as well.
Denver passes the test of beating a more established team, a regular participant in the postseason, the Green Bay Packers, and coming from behind to do it. New England fails the test and blowing a 3-touchdown lead against the more established Buffalo Bills. They said, no, you're not going to take the AFC East just so soon. The odds reflected to win the AFC, and our friends at Bally's and the Queen, Denver is now plus 300. The favorite to win the AFC, Buffalo, is second at plus 350. The Houston Texans at 550. I think they have a real shot. And are we ready to sour on New England? Because you look at their schedule, do they have another kind of show me, prove it to me win for the Patriots? Maybe not. Jacksonville is not far behind, and they got a decent roster. And again, with Lawrence playing well at plus 650, the AFC is going to be a lot of fun.
We didn't really talk about these two teams, but we're going to see them on Thursday night. Big game, Rams-Seahawks in the NFC West.
Return.
We'll see. It's going to be really rainy, though. A lot of rain, so that might factor into this game. We'll see if Devontae Adams, he's probably going to be out. That hamstring looked pretty serious, so I don't think he'll play in this game. But Seattle, are they the real deal? They're going to get a chance in the rematch.
Well, they probably should have won the game, the first one, at the Rams in Los Angeles. Darnold had 4 interceptions in that game, and they were just short on a long field goal attempt. The punt secured the game for the Rams, and in reality, because it went out inside the 1-yard line, so it made it difficult with no timeouts for Seattle to get in closer field goal range. So maybe Seattle, yes, it's a big one. One game lead, or are they tied?
They have the same record, but
okay,
obviously
so
head-to-head.
They're tied. Well, the Rams win. They're going to win it.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Finbom. Sushi, burrito, poke, ramen on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wrapping things up, Charlie will be back with us tomorrow. LSU basketball also receiving votes, 29th in the votes this week. How about Arizona? Michigan's 10-0 and been dominant, just destroying people. But Arizona with the 22-point win in Birmingham against Alabama jumps up to number 1. Highest rated SEC team is Vanderbilt at 13. Arkansas is 14. Bama 16. Auburn 21, Florida tied for 23rd, Georgia is 25th.
Tennessee 20th as well.
Tennessee, I missed them. So the only non-Power 5 team is Gonzaga in the top 25. Pittsburgh getting a little bit of public support after their win against Baltimore on the road. They're now back home. We know about Miami's traditional power struggles in the cold weather. It will be cold in Pittsburgh tonight. But Miami is on a roll, Max.
Yeah, I just like them. Win 4 in a row. Pittsburgh laying points. You're asking them to win by 4 or more if you lay Pittsburgh. And we are starting to see some 3.5s at books that are not here in Louisiana, so we might see one at the Queen and Bally's later on, plus 3.5. So waiting on that, but I like the Dolphins here. I think it's still, I can't trust them here.
Dolphins are on a roll. A 4-game winning streak, which includes a 17-point win over Buffalo, 3-point win over Washington. Remember, the Saints almost got back into it with that onside kick. They were close, and then they beat the Jets. They took care of them last week easily. I mean, it was 21-0 out the gates up in New York. They cruised to a 34-10 win. We'll have an official pick later on today at the the end of Matt's show on After Further Review. All right, for Troy Macker contributing today, and Mac sitting in for Charlie. Charlie will be back tomorrow with us. Taylor Sharp back in studio pushing all the right buttons. We'll see you tomorrow on a Tuesday. This has been Live at Lunch, live from Fin Bomb Sushi Burrito Poke Ramen on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.